Hi, my name is Angie. I'm an American currently living in Turkey. Right now, I'm learning Turkish on Duolingo. I'm learning it on Duolingo because I live in Turkey for part of the year and I'm trying to get better at my language skills so that I can be a better person here and be able to communicate with everybody. I have now been studying Turkish on Duolingo for 347 days. I do study every day on Duolingo, even for just one lesson, because I'm trying to keep my streak going on Duolingo. I don't spend a lot of time every day on Duolingo. Sometimes I'll get sucked into it and do maybe 3 or 4 lessons, but a lot of the time I do 1 or 2 lessons every day, so not very much, maybe 10 minutes a day. Aside from Duolingo, I don't have a lot of other resources right now that I'm using to learn Turkish, but I am frequently in Turkey, and so I'm in a native speaking environment. So I use Duolingo, but I also have the opportunity to speak with people every day, to get listening exposure when people are speaking around me. And I have a couple of books that I've used here and there, but I'm not as motivated with those. I think the thing I like most about the Duolingo app is it's easy to use. It was quick, easy to download, easy to pick a language, easy to get started. And I can pop in and out of it at any time. I like that very easy. The top 3 things I like about the Duolingo app, I like that it's gamified. I like that there's a kind of a competitive aspect to it where that kind of keeps me going. Like I have my streak, I don't want to lose my streak, so I do it every day. And then I see there's the points where you're competing with other people, and so sometimes I'll spend longer on it just to be able to get enough points to advance to another league. I really like that. I like that Duolingo has a variety of options. So there's speaking things, there's listening exercises, there's a lot of there's some writing, but also matching exercises. And there's a decent amount of variety. The third thing I like best about Duolingo, that I get to be connected with other people who are learning. So both friends that I have, but also random people that I've found and connected with. So I get to, send extra XP points for for 20 coins to them. I get to help motivate them to learn their language. I get to celebrate their accomplishments when I see it on the feed. So that also kind of social network side of it I really like about Duolingo. It keeps me motivated. That all being said, I absolutely believe that Duolingo can be improved. I think my feedback would be specifically about learning Turkish, and it probably applies to a number of other languages as well. But for example, I have people around me who are learning Spanish on Duolingo, and I've been able to see their use of the app. And the Spanish Duolingo version is much more advanced and developed. There are actual conversation listening exercises. There are listening comprehension exercises, not just listen and tell me the words that were said. It seems far more complex. The Turkish version of it is very basic. It's mainly translation, and it's kind of the same exercises over and over again. And while the grammar may get more complex, the exercises never change. There is no variety in it for that. I don't like that. I also think on the Turkish version as well that I think it's a lot of AI that they've used to make it, because I've had Turkish native speakers actually do an exercise for me, and they'll get things wrong. And it's not because they're wrong, it's because the app only recognizes one very specific correct answer, when in a language there are multiple ways to say things. So for example, like the words for good and beautiful in Turkish are very close and used interchangeably a lot in things, but you have to use one specifically in the app. And so that's a bit basic, I find. And yeah, just how repetitive the exercises are. I said I've gotten to 347 days on my streak, but I'm really bored with it. Like, I'm just doing it to keep my streak going. I don't feel like I'm learning as much anymore. I'm just kind of going through the motions. And because they are so repetitive, I can get good at the type of exercise without actually learning the language content they're trying to teach me. I can get it right without actually having taken that knowledge in. So I don't think it's actually enough to use Duolingo to learn a language. I don't know if I would have gotten as far as I have with my Turkish if I wasn't also in a native speaking environment. I've certainly learned a lot from Duolingo, and it's taught me how to recognize certain sentence structures. And so I learned it on Duolingo, but then I go out and I hear it more and I think like, oh, and that sort of listening intake I get from being out in the world helps me get better, whereas Duolingo just introduced me to it. I didn't necessarily learn it in depth. I speak multiple languages already, and there's never been a tool where you can just do this one thing and learn a language. And so while Duolingo is free and it's easy to use and it's accessible to a lot of people, people who just want to use Duolingo can expect to learn basics, but you're not going to become somebody who can speak. You won't be somebody who can do very intensive listening comprehension if you're just using Duolingo. My dad actually recently used Duolingo Spanish before going on a trip, and it was interesting to hear his feedback too, because Duolingo has a lot of variety, but if you're somebody who just wants to learn the basics for traveling, Duolingo is not a great option for that, because Duolingo starts and they include everything, and they have sort of a variety of different topics, but they're not necessarily themed for somebody who's trying to learn to have basic speaking skills and basic comprehension. So you don't start from the beginning and learn all the different ways to say, hi, how are you? I'd like to order a coffee. Where is this place? There's no kind of logical structure to it in that way. So it's not always helpful if you're looking to just get the basics as a traveler or tourist. I haven't used a lot of other apps for language learning. I have used Rosetta Stone for a brief period when I was given the opportunity to do that. And Rosetta Stone, I think, has a much more kind of intensive and also language learning approach, because whereas Duolingo, for example, Duolingo is all translation. All the exercises are translation. I'm either given words in Turkish and the sentence in English, and then I have to pick the right words for Turkish, or vice versa in English. Whereas Rosetta Stone is much more like a native speaking environment where you don't know what the specific things are. You're not doing translations, but what you're doing is being shown an image, and then you learn the differences as the images change, and you're learning to describe based on that. So for example, Rosetta Stone has like a picture where, like for the Spanish one that I've used, like one person, one man in the picture, one woman, two men, two women, and then you realize over practice, like, oh, this is the verb form for plural women. This is the verb form for a single man. Like, you do it more in the way that a person would learn a language, being exposed to it, versus translation. The problem that I would have with both of those, actually, Rosetta Stone and Duolingo, is that you don't get like spelled out lessons. It is all input and output. But like somebody like me, I'm really trying to learn Turkish to speak it well and to be able to produce it well. Those aren't really enough. Also, as an adult and somebody who does have an understanding of grammar, having an actual thorough lesson where I have to repeat the same thing, the same type of sentence structure, let's say 30 times, and that there's an explanation for how those come together, that would be much more helpful for me. And neither Rosetta Stone nor Duolingo offer those. Aside from that, I've not really used any other language learning apps. I've used mainly textbooks. For somebody looking to learn a new language, my recommendations, I'd have a few of them, but one is to use a variety of sources. So for example, Duolingo is an awesome place to start. Definitely use it, but don't rely on it as the only tool that you're going to use to learn. I would recommend using something like that, but then also looking up like worksheets, free worksheets online, videos of native speakers talking, and any opportunity that you can get to actually interact with a native speaker. Whether that's finding someone online that you do a conversation trade with, or somebody even, if you have to pay them, but finding someone you can interact with, because it's entirely different doing an exercise on an app or on a worksheet versus actually trying to like generate language or understand a native speaker. Those would be my big recommendations. Merhaba arkadaşlar, benim adım Angie, ben Amerikalıyım, ben şimdi Türkiye'de yaşıyorum. Türkiye çok güzel bir ülke, çok seviyorum, insan harikalar, yemek harika, her şey harika. İnşallah siz de gelebilirsiniz.
Good, thank you.